Welcome to the Successful Home Inspector Podcast, where we discuss everything you need to know about home inspection from A to Z. Brought to you by Preston Sandlin and Home Inspection Carolina. We're here to share some success stories and some not so successful stories. Some things we can all learn from, and maybe, just maybe, we can help each other and raise the profession. So sit back, turn up the volume, and enjoy. Now, here's your host of the Successful Home Inspector Podcast, Preston Sandlin.
Guys, let's face it, Yellow Pages are dead. The old days of calling your company AAA Home Inspection and expecting to get calls from that by being number one on the Yellow Pages don't work anymore. Today, you got to be number one on the search engines. That's Google, Yahoo, Bing, or a couple of others. Billy Borner from St. Louis knows how to do this. He has been number one for quite some time, and it brings him thousands of dollars each month. I've talked to Billy, and he's decided to make this available for you. SEO Secrets. And he normally charges $49 for this instructional video, but for our listeners, we've worked out a deal where it's $39.95. For $39.95, you can bring thousands of dollars to your company each month as well. Go to the homepage, thesuccessfulhomeinspector.com, and look on the tab SEO Secrets. Click on that and go to Billy's link.
There, I have a special treat for you guys out there today. I have one of the most successful home inspectors that I know, one of the largest as well, but she's not just a home inspector. She's very multi-talented. I know she does a lot of stuff with wiping out hunger and homelessness. I'm sure she'll tell us a little bit about that, and she also owns an alarm company. I have on the line no other than Patty Thornberry. How are you doing today, Patty?
I'm fine. Thank you for having me. This is like really special. I'm not gonna cry. I'm getting emotional here. This is really cool that you asked me to do this. Thanks for having me.
No, I'm the other way around. I'm like, I'm doing the wave to you right now.
Wonderful.
I remember the first conference I ever went to, and you were there, and I was in awe. I'm still in awe, but
oh, that is very sweet. Thank you. Thanks.
Well, you got up and you sang. I mean, not only did you run, very successful home inspection company, but several years ago, you got up and sang a thing you did for the hunger thing. And I mean, she can sing too. I don't know if I was like, my gosh, she's good at everything.
That's what. And you know what my favorite song is the national anthem, and I get asked to sing that at national events. I sang at the Big Ten conference here in Indianapolis.
Awesome.
Yeah, and was able to sing for that to open that. So yeah, it's a cool thing.
Well, cool. Well, and if I'm not mistaken, Patty is married to Phil Thornberry, and you guys met. If I'm not mistaken, I think I read somewhere. Was it Phil's parents owned a restaurant? Is that correct?
Yep.
Is that how you guys met?
His dad owned the steak place, and I was in high school, and during high school, I actually moved out when I was a senior. And took my bike, and I was a waitress at the restaurant where Phil also worked, and his dad owned it, and so that's how we met. Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Well, so now how did you guys? And that's good. That's great. So tell us from there how you got into home inspection, and when you got married and all that. If I'm not
Sure.
prying too much.
Nah, you can probe. So anyway, so we dated, and I graduated from high school. When I graduated from high school, I had a full scholarship to go to DePauw University. Nice. And since I was already out on my own, I thought, I don't have time to go to college. I need to just get out and work. Right. So I went ahead and got out there and started working. I worked for 2 years at Indiana Bell and was a service rep on the phone, and that is where I get my phone experience. From all the heavy-duty training that they put you through, 8 hours a day for 12 weeks in a room before they would ever let you answer their phones for them. After that, I worked as a mortgage broker. I was the youngest mortgage broker in the state of Indiana, and I went out and I started calling on real estate offices. And I was like, well, this is kind of cool. So I did that for a couple of years while I got my real estate license. And then I went to work and became a real estate agent at one of the largest companies here in Indiana, the F.C. Tucker Company, and I was able to be a sales associate for them and made a lot of money my first 2 years. While I was doing that, Phil, my husband, had gone from being an electrician to working for a single operator home inspector.
Okay.
And during that time, people started asking me when I was working at the F.C. Tucker Company if Phil would do one on the side. And we just had a philosophy that we weren't going to do anything on the side behind an employer's back. So we decided then that we were going to both quit our jobs at the same time and start a company. So we both cold turkey quit our jobs and started our inspection company right then. So that's how we got into it.
Cool. Okay, so was it security home inspection at that time, or did you guys?
No. We were trying to decide, number one, who would own it, and number two, what the name would be. So both of our initials are PT. So we started a company called PT Home Inspections. And so we did that for like a year, and it was like, what a stupid name. So while we were doing that, we were also doing electrical work because we were electricians, licensed electricians, and we were putting in floodlights around perimeters of people's homes. And the name of our electrical company was Security Electric. So we said, well, wait a minute. Why don't we just go ahead and make it Security Home Inspections? And that's how we got the name from our electric company.
Oh, okay. Cool. Well, now, Patty, two parts here. First, about what time did you start the home, date-wise, did you start the inspection company? And then what changes have you seen over the years?
Well, our company this year is 31 years old.
Oh, wow.
We started it in April of 1984. And I would say in the changes, first of all, I was one of only 3 women in the country that went through all the proper training to be a home inspector. So when we first started the company, it was just Phil and I. So during the day, I would go out and I would go around to all the real estate offices and get in there and put my flyers in and whatever. And then I would also take the beeper, because we didn't have cell phones, so we had beepers. The beeper would go off that somebody wanted an inspection, and I would take the order. And then at night, when Phil got home from doing the inspections, I would hand type all of the inspections, and then the next day go out and deliver all the inspections and hand deliver them. And at that time, he would do 6 a day for $95.
Oh my goodness! Wow.
$95, and it was a full inspection. And so that was a rough time. And then we got so busy that we ended up hiring an HVAC guy, a heating and cooling guy, to ride along with me. And so I would go out and sell, and then I would end up doing 2 or 3 inspections a day that I would then have to type mine plus his at night, and then go out the next day and deliver them. So it became very evident quickly that we needed help, shall we say. So
I hear you. Well, that's a good transition to my next question. But I also want to say congratulations on leading the way and being a trailblazer. We have a woman in training right now, Shannon, and she's going to be excellent. I can't wait until she gets out there. And my kids are kind of interested too. I have 2 girls, so I tell them, you can do anything a man can do. Trust me.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, if you don't mind me, and I wanted to tell all the listeners out there, I don't know if I mentioned it, Patty's inspection company and an alarm company, it's in the Indianapolis area. I guess it's central Indiana. Is that correct?
Yes.
You guys serve that area?
Yep,
and
certainly is.
Sure. Well, if you don't mind me asking, how many inspectors do you guys have, and what was it like to hire the first one? Because there's so many single guy operators out there that need help, like you were mentioning, and they just have a really hard time, my present company included, back when I, hired that first one. What was that like?
Yeah, it was really scary because you hope that they will do the inspection just like you, and they're never going to do it the way you do it. They're different people. They're not going to have the same expectations and training. Back then, when we hired our first guy, his name was Larry. He was a young guy, and we got him as a reference through a church. And so he came on board, and it was pretty exciting and scary. Larry was very, very quick, very efficient, and we didn't know how he could get in and out of those houses so good. But he actually was quite good, and he stayed with us for, I think, maybe 11 years, something like that. But no, it's scary because here's the thing, is that when you do what you love, and if you're a home inspector and you really love doing that, and then you get so busy and all of a sudden you wake up one day and you need more people, you've just changed your work job description. You're no longer an inspector. You are now an employer. You're a counselor. You're a CFO. All of a sudden, you've added all these elements that you didn't have yesterday. So when we hired him, that threw up the game a lot, because now you could do more inspections. So once you can do more and you can fit more people in, it just starts building. And so today we've got 12 inspectors. My goal is to have 15 by the end of the year. And we're taking over more markets. We're centrally located in Indianapolis, but we go all the way up to Lafayette and all the way across to Muncie, and we go all the way south to Bloomington. Those are big markets for us. So we're about 2/3 of the state covered for residential, and we're 100% covered with our commercial company.
Oh, awesome. And I'll have to add something Patty told me one time that I've always remembered. She said that I should always have somebody in training.
Always.
So, I took that part, and that was a really good piece of advice. And I know sometimes people worry about a certain time of year, getting busy. And, you know, I remembered what you said, and I've also found out that if there's a quality person, hire them. Hire them.
Absolutely. You know, and even to that point, I've got somebody here in the office that I hired from a huge, huge corporation. And she came in, and it's very interesting because I didn't get this, Preston, from the huge corporations bringing that down to maybe a single operator or a dual operator, mom-pop shop and whatever. But they were saying that you're always hiring, because what happens is then you change kind of the pecking order. So all of a sudden, if I've got 12 inspectors and I hire another one, and this guy is like super, super good, he might come in at number 3 on my list. Well, all of a sudden, that guy that's at the bottom just fell even farther down.
Right.
So it really helps with your quality control big time to constantly put new people in there. Definitely.
I absolutely agree. And somebody told me once, I can't remember who said this, it might have been Gordon or somebody. He said, hire 2, fire 1, and the one you fire might not be one of the 2 new guys.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, because the one keeps falling, and especially you see the one keeps falling to the bottom. It's like it's a wake-up call for you. And the problem with being an employer is too many people are quick to hire and slow to fire. We've got that reverse. We should be slow to hire and quick to fire, because you can't change people once they come on board, and it never gets better in the interview ever.
That's right. And I've heard nobody ever said I fired that guy too fast.
Right. Yeah. Nobody has ever said. You're right.
Everyone's like, what took you so long?
Yeah.
Well, Patty, do you feel, or does Phil have a training process for your inspectors? Tell us more about that.
We do. Well, first of all, we've got our own school. We're a school with the Indiana Real Estate Commission, so we are an approved school and also approved speakers and things like that. So we can train people from the ground up. We can get them through our school, get them through the state licensing. Then when they come on board, or maybe they didn't go through that and they went through their own whatever, when they come on board, we have a requirement that they have to come into the office. And they have to be in the office for a minimum of 1 week, possibly 2. And during that time, we're giving them access to the computer system so that they are looking at reviewing with a senior tech all the inspections that everyone else is doing. So this person, instead of being out in the field and doing 1 here, 1 there, whatever, they're looking at 24 to 30 inspections online and reviewing and looking. So that really gets down to their core knowledge. And they'll come out and go, I had no idea that you guys are calling CSST, or they'll come up with something, right? Then the other aspect of it is they need to have a respect and knowledge of what goes on in the office. I don't want them to get out in the field, have an ego that gets a little too big, and then them forget that the girls that are answering the phones or taking the online orders are the ones that are feeding them. So we have I even tell them, now make sure that, on admin day and on a Friday, you're feeling good, bring in a cookie for everybody, but constantly treat the other employees in the corporation as if they are a client. If you treat your employees as if they're your clients, oh my gosh, it really changes the atmosphere.
I like it.
Yeah. Then what they do, Preston, then we put them out in the field and they shadow. So they go out in the field and they shadow with one of our senior guys. And when they shadow with them, they literally are told not to talk to anybody, but they just are watching, right? Just zip it, say nothing. And then we progress forward until finally they switch roles. And so now they go out with the senior guy, but they're the lead, and the other guy's the grunt, if you will. The other thing that's been very helpful is because we're a fairly good-sized company in this industry, we send them out with each one of our guys. And I'll tell you the cool thing about that is, so now they go out and do inspections with John, and they're with John for a week, and then they're with Chuck for a week, whatever. And then they bring it on back, and they'll say to me, hey, this guy does this, but this guy doesn't. So it also helps your quality control to keep somebody in training. They're going around, and they're coming back and going, well, this guy does this, but this guy doesn't.
Oh, yeah, okay. I like it.
Oh, it works great for quality control.
I'm right. I'm going to make some changes here on my company. I'm seeing some good ideas.
Yeah, it does. It works really well.
And I think they're going to come in and watch the phone too for a while. I like it. Love it.
Yeah, do that. And then the other thing too is that we really test the people when they come in, like for an interview. It's because it never gets better than an interview. I always have them come in 2 or 3 different times. I change it up. I get them very, very comfortable. So the first time it's very formal, shake hands, whatever. But then the second time is I walk them around the office, and the girls know because they've all been through this when they were hired. So maybe there will be a piece of paper on the floor. Doesn't matter how big, right? I'll step over it. I want to see if the guy behind me walks behind me, bends over and picks it up. I stand up. I turn on a light to show them a room in the office, and then when I leave, I want to know, did they turn that light off? I want to know, did they push their chair in? Because it tells me how they're going to treat people's houses. Also, it's a good sign of management if you have somebody that will bend over and pick up that paper, straighten up something. It lets me know what potentially I could do with them in the future. So the other thing is I bring women in, and I take women seriously for if they get the heebie-jeebies, we'll call it. They shake the hand, and they'll tell me, they'll say, you know what? Something's wrong. So, and I'll go, fine, we're not hiring him then. I'm that sincere about it. So I have people of all different nationalities that work for me, and I go in, I want to make sure that this person's going to treat everybody with a great amount of respect. So.
That is awesome. I think also if guys out there are single and you're thinking about dating someone, you should have Patty run them through her system.
I'll tell you exactly what I think. Absolutely. Send him up here. I'll interview him.
I like it. No, it's brilliant, actually. It's brilliant. Well, Patty, changing gears just a little bit, do you have a success quote you'd like to share with us? And do you have a time maybe when the quote applied to you?
Well, you know, I think about quotes. There's so many different ones out there. Do what you love and the money will follow.
Sure.
So many people chase money all their life, and they're always broke. Stop chasing money. Do what you love and watch what happens to your world. The other thing that, you know, it all depends on how you look at money. A penny saved is a penny earned. Before 2008, I could tell that the market was starting to get a little bit slow. So I called in my executive admin and I said, here's the project. For the next 5 days, we are on lockdown, you and me. And here's the rule, is that we're going to come up with a penny saved is a penny earned. I want to cut the bottom line. But the 2 rules that had to apply was, number 1, we could change no services to our customers. Nothing. The customer still got the same level of service from our company. And number 2 is it couldn't affect any employee or the benefits. Those were off the table. And you know, it was amazing. All through 2008 and in the slower recession type time, right, we did not get rid of one employee. And we did not hinder any of our services, and in fact, actually expanded in that time. Wow,
that's awesome. That is awesome. Because that was the brunt. 2008 and 2009 was the brunt of the downturn. So that
really was
awesome that you could keep it through there. Well, Patty, let's say that I'm a buyer or real estate agent in Central Indiana. There are other home inspectors in your market. Why should I hire you? Is there something you guys do that the others don't?
Well, in our market, the add-on services are probably one of the key things. So we do recall check, where we're checking the appliances for any recalls. We have a 90-day warranty that's included. We do sewer guard, mold safe. We take online orders. A lot of our competition, you have to reach them on the phone. And we also have a product called Agent Book. So that actually lets our key agents in our market that do a lot of business with us, they have access directly to our schedule. So they can know that they're going to be going out with a customer in 2 weeks from now. The customer's not even here yet. They have the authority and the ability to get on our on our software program and go ahead and hold a time, because they're so good at doing their job that they want to make sure that they're in line and they don't get to that point and they have to, book out 14 days or whatever.
Right.
So
right.
that's a really good program as Agent Book.
Cool. Good stuff. Well, I'm going to double these questions up, Patty. And you've been dropping gold nuggets. I just want to tell you, I already written down some stuff. Yeah,
love it.
All over the place. Well, I'm going to double these questions up. Tell us something that people don't know about you, Patty, and what do you like to do in your spare time?
Oh, boy. In my spare time, I love to read, run, walk, kayak, and bike and swim. That's my spare time. Give me any of those activities, I'm thrilled. I love it all. As far as something that people don't know about me, which kind of gets back to what you had said about singing, well, what people don't know is I was actually the lead singer in a country band, and our band actually wrote, produced, and sang the theme song for the Wank and O'Brien show on 97.1 Hank FM in Indianapolis.
Oh, wow.
And so from that, I went to them, and they sponsored me, and I am a CMA member. So when you watch the CMAs on TV and they say, Country Music Artist of the Year, Taylor Swift, or Tim McGraw, or Faith Hill, or whoever, I am one of the 5,000 members across the United States and across the world that have been accepted by the CMA to do the judging. So I'm the one, and right now we're in round one. So right now I get to get online with my secret codes and be able to put in who I would nominate for each one of the categories, Artist of the Year, Song of the Year, Single of the Year, whatever. So that's something that people don't realize that I do.
That is so cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, Patty, you know as well as I do that if you do enough inspections, you're going to get an unhappy camper. How do you guys handle an unhappy camper? Do you have a process? What's that look like?
I would say yes, we do, number one, and that is, first of all, I don't know if you've heard LaToya in our office. She is dynamite. You have to have somebody who is not defensive on your side of the phone, who doesn't takes it with a grain of salt, if you will. So one of the key things that we do is the girls, first of all, handle the unhappy camper. We are more than happy to come out, take a look at what they've got, and be able to assess it. But let's say that this person is one of those people that just wants to take it over the top. So when they want to take it over the top, there's three key things to know. Number one, you have to listen, and that's a very hard thing for people to do, is to be a really good listener. Because if you listen, you will be able to read between the lines and see what the real problem is, because it's usually you're just the straw that broke the camel's back.
Right.
The second thing is you have to set the expectation of what the call is going to be. So, and what I mean by that is when I have somebody that I'm dealing with, I let them know in no uncertain terms, their happiness is not my responsibility. What is my responsibility is setting a level, an expectation of fairness, that when I get done with them, my goal is that they've been treated fairly. And it doesn't mean that I've given them what they wanted, but they felt fair about it. The other thing that people don't realize is that when you have somebody who's venting and carrying on, it takes them 55 minutes to get the wind out of their sail. After 55 minutes, the wind comes out of their sail, and then you can negotiate to everyone's satisfaction.
Good. No, I like that. It's good stuff. And, you're right. Most of the times we've had an unhappy camper. When you get right down to it, there's more going on. I mean, like you said, that was just the straw that broke the camel's back. And, they're upset about some other things in combination with yours. And like I said, their happiness is not your responsibility, just fairness is.
Right.
That's good.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Well, Patty, we're going to get into some highs and lows here. But first, let's take a pause first.
Are you struggling to make your home inspection business grow? Well, have I got the answer for you. HomeInspectionFlyers.com. At HomeInspectionFlyers.com, you get 5 flyers a month. There are 3 sales flyers and 2 recipe flyers. And you can customize them to exactly what you want. And these make great flyers when you go to the offices to put in their boxes, especially if you're doing like candy bowls or something along that nature. Like I said, it's 5 flyers a month for $29.99, and they're very creative, and you just put in your information. They come as a publisher file, and you just put in your information, and then you send them off to get printed. You can send them off online, and you can get color copies for less than 10 cents a copy. It's a great way to go. I went from being a one-man home inspection firm to a seven-man home inspection firm on this one strategy alone. So try it today. HomeInspectionFlyers.com. Thanks.
All right. Well, folks, I am back here with Patty Thornberry, and I hope you guys are taking notes, unless, of course, you're driving. In that case, listen to it again when you get home. I can't be responsible. Fairness is all I'm responsible for here. But I definitely get back. It's a writer-downer, some of the stuff she's saying. Well, Patty, tell us about a time when you failed. Take us there, and what you learned from it.
That's a hard one for me, because I don't know if it's just that my mind doesn't go there.
Right.
But anything that would have happened along my life, if it was bad, right, I guess I turned it into an opportunity, because I think of things totally different. I don't think of something as a failure. I think of it as an opportunity to learn and to move on from there. So, thinking about that, it's like, what is a failure? I mean, I'm married. I've got a great company. I got great companies. I got great kids, great grandkids. I'm looking. It's like, I don't see a failure. Maybe I can get back to you in a couple of weeks and let you know and go, I got it, Preston. I got one for you, but I don't have one.
Right. Well, you just don't, whatever it is, it's a learning. It's a learning experience.
Yeah, I don't sit there and go, oh my God, what a failure I did. I don't. I go, okay, what do we do? And even to that point, I'll give you an example. I had an inspector one time that came in and he felt really bad because he had missed some termite issue or whatever. And I just looked at him and he just felt so forlorn. I said, I got to ask you something. Did you learn anything? He goes, yeah. I said, then forget it.
Yeah.
Move on. You don't waller in bad. You don't waller in failure or bad. You learn and you go, okay, got that one, won't do that again, and you move on. That's
right. I've heard somebody say, what is it? It's a chance to start again with better information.
Absolutely, it is. That's very good. Yes, it is.
Well, on the other end of the spectrum, Patty, I called this an I made it moment, but I don't like to say that because I've always feel like we're work in progress. But how about I've come a long way moment? Have you had that moment?
I have had that moment on quite a few things where you go, wow, I finally got there. I think the big victories, if you will, or whatever you want to call them, is number one is when you see the success of your kids.
Yeah.
For instance, I've got 3 boys, and the third one just got married last weekend on July 4th. He wound up a destination wedding, Miami Beach, and at that time it was like the last one, and graduated. And even to that point, since I never went to college, and I was one of 5, my husband was one of 5, none of his went to college. Mm-hmm. My middle son, Chris, was the first one to go to college, and when they graduated from high school or went from one school to another school, that wasn't a big deal. But I got to tell you, I was an absolute ball baby when Chris graduated from Ball State University, because he was the first one to break through and he actually achieved something. And I thought, you know what? That was my success, because we made sure that he had every opportunity. He had to grab it, but he had every opportunity to do it. The other thing from a standpoint of victories, I got to tell you, I've run 7 full marathons and 15 half marathons. And you work out. God. I know. And you work out and you do that. I've done century rides and stuff like that. And I got to tell you, there is nothing more than crossing that finish line, and getting that medal that says you did it. You did something that not everybody does, and not everybody should, obviously. But it's that kind of thing. It's that moment is what I look for. When you bend over and you go, no, and there's this little kid at the end of the finish line, and they're going to hand you a medal, and I'll bend over. I'll go, no, please put it on my neck for me. And it's like somebody saying, you know what, you did good. Right? No,
that is awesome. And for marathons, 26 miles. I've done a couple of 10Ks, which is like 6 miles. And there's this inner fight that goes on in your mind. When you're pushing yourself, and it's like, yep. I'm sure you felt it's like, something starts hurting, like, oh, my knee's hurting, my stomach's tightening up, something. And, there's this little voice that's like, you could just quit, you could just walk. And then the other's like, no, you can't. You come this far, you got to keep doing. And I think it's if that one voice wins and you push through, that's the victory. You face down you just didn't quit, even though a little bit of you. You know what I mean? That to
well,
me, that's
yeah, and in fact, there's a saying. It's that you continue on when your mind and body has no reason to go, when they're like done. And for that reason, when I did the marathons, I did it for lymphoma and leukemia, for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. So they actually gave you a designated child that you were doing this. And my first marathon was in Honolulu. I raised $30,000 for the Leukemia Society for a little boy named Andrew. And when I did that race, I was at mile 24, and I had a medial meniscus break in my left knee. And all I kept thinking was about Andrew, and I thought, I didn't come this far.
Right.
Not to finish. You know, that in life, you don't come this far not to finish. So I couldn't walk without excruciating pain, and I couldn't run. But I'll tell you, the weirdest thing is I could skip. And in the last 2 hours, or the last 2 miles, I skipped the rest of the way, and that included going up Diamond Head.
Oh,
and
my gosh.
It was like I was going to do this one. But anyway, so you get there. You get there one way or the other. It's kind of cool.
That's definitely, I've come a long way moment there, or a proud moment. Well, I know you like to read, Patty, you said, so it might be hard to narrow this down to just one or two, but do you have a favorite book you could recommend to our listeners, and what is it about the book that appeals to you?
I read a book a week, and then
Wow.
there's books that you go back to. So the Bible, obviously, is the number one book, because if you want answers, it's in there. Right. But if you want spin-offs of those kind of things and ideas, The Speed of Trust, which was written by Stephen Covey's son, is fabulous. What do you do when you break the trust of a client, which has to do with, they think you messed up. How do you get their trust back? Right. The One Thing is a great book. Profit First is a wonderful business book. For any of your listeners that are getting ready to go into the business, the book Profit First is fabulous. Okay,
so Speed of Trust, One Thing, Profit First, and of course the Bible.
Yep, you got it.
The Bible. Good deal. Well, we talked a little bit about what the changes you've seen. If you had a crystal ball, how do you think home inspections will change in the future, Patty?
I think they have a great potential for becoming a required part of a real estate transaction. And I'm not talking about on the purchase agreement, but I'm saying that a bank would not do a loan for a consumer on a house if it doesn't have an appraisal, if it doesn't have a home warranty, and if it doesn't have an inspection included with every single sale. I just feel like we're heading that way. Now, the downfall for that, in my opinion, is if they ever do that, it would almost be very similar to appraisers, where you'd have all the same forms.
Right.
Then how do you differentiate yourself from everybody else? But when the banks said they weren't in the real estate business, it's a load of crap, because then when the market fell, who ended up with all the properties? The banks did. Well, now they have a vision of what happens with real estate, with mold, moisture problems, leaky pipes, all that. And so I just think that somewhere down the future that you'll see that it is a required, and it would not be required by the transaction, but by the lender, that they would require us to do it. I hope it doesn't happen that way, though.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, and I hope it doesn't. Our lenders now, it's kind of crazy. Or the appraisers, I don't know if it's this way in Indiana. I think it's national. They're randomly assigned.
Right.
And which is crazy, because you'll have an appraiser who works, the north side of town, who's not really that familiar, assigned to the, I know what they're trying to do. They're trying to prevent the buddy, slap the back. But
Absolutely.
You're also getting somebody who's not knowledgeable of the area. But anyway, Patty, have you ever been thrown under the bus by a contractor? I know you have.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Unfortunately, that happens more often than you'd like to think it would happen,
Yeah. Do you have any ideas of how we could, I don't think we could ever stop it, but at least contain it or keep it under thumb a little bit?
Well, a couple ideas is, number one, being a business consultant. One of the things that I've done is I created how you have like those BNI groups and those networking groups? Well,
sure.
You could create a contractors group, if you will, of all home services that you hold the meetings, right? And so you've all got the same customers, but you're in a different line of business. So that way you can kind of understand where they're coming, and they can help you when they go to their meetings to explain what home inspectors do and what they don't do. Now, when a contractor throws you under the bus, number one, it's usually because what I have found is because they're hurting and they need the work.
Right.
Because if you're good at what you do and you have a name in your industry, then they're not going to throw you under the bus. They're going to say, you know what, these guys know what they're doing. Let me call them and see why this is happening now. And then you get a phone call from them. Now, when a contractor throws us under the bus, I kind of mess with them at some point where the consumer calls and says, hey, this guy said that you guys missed this, that this was here 15 years ago when you were here. You know?
Yeah.
So I always tell when the customer says that, the first thing the customer expects is a fight. So I don't give them a fight, which takes their wall down. So I take their wall down by saying, oh, I can't believe that. I'll tell you what, could you call that contractor back and ask him the exact date and time that those termites walked in the door? I need to know from my records in order for me to process this claim, what is the exact date that the termites entered the property? And you know what? I have to tell you, Preston, 9 times out of 10, they don't even call back. Because I think they call the contractor and say, okay, I can make a claim, but I need to know the exact date the termites got there.
Yeah.
And the minute I started doing that, I'll tell you, that changed the perspective from the contractors. They quit messing with us.
Good stuff. I'm writing this down, too.
Yep. Tell them you want to know the date that the event happened.
Good deal. Well, here's something that bothers me, and knowing your integrity, I'm sure it bothers you as well, is there's some contractors unscrupulous, and I know, you know, I have nothing against entrepreneurship. I'm all about it. I know you are too. But I have a problem when people try to sell people something they don't need and they use fear to try to do it. And one of the biggest offenders in our area, and not all of them, but there are some mold contractors and HVAC contractors that, you know, they don't want to do a repair. They don't want to, you know, they want to sell them. They want to sell them a mold remediation. They want to sell them a new air conditioning system, whether they need it or not.
Right.
And sometimes they use scare tactics. I know you know what I'm talking about. You know, how do you, first of all, do you have this in your area, and do you think there's any way we can combat it, and have, you know, what's your opinions on that?
Well, are you talking about like where you did an inspection, or you're just saying as a common, like it could be any Joe homeowner that ends up getting somebody that walks in their door and says, you know, that they need it?
You know, it's kind of both. I mean, it started with, you know, inspections that I've done, and they come back on, and obviously it's a direct hit because they tell them, oh, your inspector, you know, and you go out there, and I'm like, this crawl space is fine. It's perfect. You know, it's dusty under there. And, you know, it looks like every other one. And I'm like, have you tested it to see? And no, we don't usually do that. But you're telling them they need a $12,000 mold remediation and you haven't tested it? Well, we don't usually do that. And I'm like, well, why? Because you might not have a job. But then from that, you know, it's made me aware of it. And I'm like, this goes on all the time. And you guys don't have how do y'all sleep at night? You know, that's
right.
my
Well, you know, and to the consumer's point, the consumer needs to have a clear understanding, and this is up to us in the industry to say that we are the third party, disinterested party to this, because we don't make an extra dime off of this. Whereas these guys, I mean, their whole purpose is to upsell. In fact, one of the contractors here in town, we had gotten a call from somebody after they moved in and said, oh, my God, my house was catching on fire, and I called the HVAC person because it was coming out of the furnace, and they're here now, and they're putting in a new furnace. I said, well, unless we could see the old furnace, I'm not even going to take this phone call. They said the furnace is in the driveway. I said, great, we're on our way. We went over there, and the air filter, the filter for the furnace, had been installed backwards and got sucked in, and then when she would turn on the fan, this dust particles out of this horribly, you know, dirty filter went everywhere, and she thought it was smoke, and they fed on that. And they were putting, they had a $4,200, they had to replace the whole system, and they had that in the driveway. And it was like, you know what? You need to fire them right now. Tell them to put this back. And they should feel fortunate if they don't, you know, get that's the kind of stuff you tweet about, quite frankly.
Yeah, and I mean my problem is those HVAC guys willingly knew that. And they just made those people spend, or was about to make them spend $4,200 that they didn't need to spend. I just how do you
and you can't swallow that. You can't fix somebody else's their ethics. So if there's an unethical company out there, our goal is hopefully not to run into them, but to be wise enough to know that when they are, that we make sure that we don't talk anybody down. We just suggest maybe that they get a couple other opinions, you know?
Absolutely. Well, good stuff. Well, we only got a couple more questions here, Patty, and I thank you so much for your graciousness and giving some great answers. Now, this one, it might be funny, but I do want to remind you that we're a G-rated show with this question in mind.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind.
All right. What I told iTunes they had to ask. What is the craziest, wildest, or weirdest things you guys weirdest thing you guys have ever found on a home inspection?
Okay. All right. Well, we're in Indiana, so our weather is kind of, we get cold up here. We get rain, we get snow, we get all that.
Right.
One of my inspectors, and this was many years ago, pretty much when you first started taking digital pictures, because believe me, those first inspections didn't have any pictures. It was just written copy. That was it. So we now have cameras. We got cameras on hand. One of my guys is out on an inspection and goes into the fenced-in backyard. And he's going along the back end of this house, and he's looking at the house, and he gets a tap on his shoulder. Now, he's got his camera right there, because he was taking pictures, and so he turns and he immediately takes a snap picture, and there was an ostrich that had walked off behind him. Now, why did they say, people always say, well, there's a Rottweiler or a dog in the backyard. No one ever thought to say, by the way, there's an ostrich that lives here. So that was good. Scared the crap out of him.
Oh, man.
I would say that's the wildest.
We still have the picture.
We do. We still have the picture, yeah. It was
man.
too funny. I show that when I'm doing continuing ed for real estate agents. I show that as one of my funny pictures of, please let us know. And Phil did go out on one time for a woman here that's very eccentric, and went in the backyard, and he heard a noise, and he turned around, and she has those white Bengal tigers, and she has two of them in the backyard. And it's like, how can people not think to tell you this?
How do you have one of those?
Endangered species is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, gosh. All right. Well, Patty, do you have any kind of app or training resource or marketing resource or website that you'd be willing to share with everyone that might help them out?
As far as for building their business,
well, just something that might be helpful. I shared Waze. I don't know if you've ever used that. That's awesome. It tells you about it's like GPS that tells you about traffic, stuff like that, or just anything you guys have found that could be helpful, or a training resource, or. Well,
I got to tell you, I guess my first thought is we grew to a point where we have a full-time marketing person, so he is so into all the gadgets and everything, the apps and everything you can do on the internet, that I tend not to do that. My thing is more of the technical, and to make sure that we're doing the right reports. So for instance, for newer guys, if you don't have a software program, I really would tell them to look at Horizon. As a great software program, because it integrates the work order, the software, and it's got a little bit of a marketing piece to it with profiles with agents. But other than that, I'm trying to think on that one. I don't have one that pops in my head. If I do, I'll come back to it at some point and tell you.
Okay, cool. Well, we just got I think 3 or 4 more questions here, and I'll let you go. I know you're busy. Okay. Patty, what's the best part of your job and why, and what's the worst part of your job and why?
I think the best part of my job is that I love it. When I don't, I quit. And that's always been, I've been here 31 years, and I haven't quit yet, so I must love it. But I just enjoy what I do. I enjoy all aspects of it. Aspects have changed over the years, but I enjoy it, and I keep it fresh and new. One of the funnest things I do with my job is I feel like I'm the cheerleader for our company. So I sit in my office and I think, boy, the phones aren't ringing. I keep forgetting that my phones don't ring in my office. I've set it up that way. And I'll look up and the girls will have taken 25 orders. So I'll kick my shoes off.
Wow.
And I'll run around. Yeah, and I'll kick my shoes off and I'll run around the office and hold my hands up and I'll just do goofy things, because you have to break people's tapes. You have to keep their spirits up. So I do insane things in between phone calls for the girls. The worst part about a job, and this would be for anybody, is when you work around someone who doesn't like their job.
Right.
They're miserable in their job. Set them free. you know what, it doesn't look like this is working out for you. But I would rather set someone free than to have somebody so miserable in what they're doing, where it's just not what they thought they would do at this point in their life, and so they become miserable. And it's like, no, you can't pull everybody down. So
absolutely, good advice. Well, Patty, is there anything you're working on right now that has you jacked up or excited about?
I would say for our company is, number one, commercial inspections is huge, and we've created the Commercial Building Inspectors Network, and we're working with international and national companies to get contracts and to do inspections all over North America, and that's been really exciting. Yeah, that's huge. And then the other thing, too, is to create RMRs. That's recurring monthly revenues, something that in the inspection business, for some reason we've always turned to, we've done the inspection and we run like crazy from the customer because, God forbid, they'd call us back and have a problem. But we run from these customers, and yet these customers look at us and go, I like you. You know houses. You know this house. You know me, and I've enjoyed the experience. What else can I buy from you? That's critical, and that's really, in the inspection business, that's where we need to head. What else can we sell the consumer that we already have?
We're leaving money on the table if we don't.
We are, absolutely.
Well, Patty, let's say that now you got to, hypothetically here, use your imagination. If you were to move to a new area equal to the population of central Indiana, you still had everything that you have, all your current knowledge, all your current equipment, everything's the same. It's just you don't know anybody here, and you had $5,000 to market. What are you going to do with that $5,000 in your first week? Basically, it's like what are you going to get the best return on your marketing, your ROI?
So marketing for because I'm going to go into this market, I'm going to be a home inspector, correct? Yes?
Correct, yes.
Okay, so I would spend that money solely on going to any and every event that realtors are at. I would not spend the money to do anything other than going to events where realtors are there, and I would work the crowd. So if it's joining the local board so that you can go to all of the board meetings, all of the division meetings for that board all the way around the city, I would do that. I would go to every luncheon. I would also see if I could do engagement of speaking at the real estate offices. I would get in and talk with them and then tell them I'll bring them breakfast. And the breakfast, I think I would do a little bit different than that, is a lot of people bring in the donuts or whatever or the bagels. I'll tell you what we did, and it got around town to where people were calling us and saying, hey, why don't you come over here? And that was, we found this place that would cater, and they would bring in the eggs, the bacon, the sausage, everything.
Nice.
And so when the people would come to their meeting, they would smell the smell. And so we started getting people calling, and it was only like $100, and you're going to spend that much on donuts and bagels anyway. So a full-fledged breakfast at a couple offices, and you'll have more business than you can handle.
Absolutely. And if you could find like a restaurant that's trying to grow their business, they may cut you a deal because they're probably hoping by, have people sample it. They're going to ask, oh, man, where's this from? Mm-hmm. So that would be a win-win. Good stuff. Well, Patty, I'm down to the last question. Is there anything that I should have asked you that I did?
Boy, I don't think so. I think I love what you're doing. I love being asked to be on your show. This is fabulous. I don't have any particular thing that I go, wow, if you just would have asked me that, I would have answered that. I don't have one of those. I'm good.
No, it's great. And the feeling's mutual. I'm honored that you accepted, and I think the listeners are real benefactors as well. And I'm sure that they're going to write down, take notes, and listen to this one more than once.
Yeah, well, I wish you well in your business. You are dynamo. I absolutely love you. I love the pants you wear. I got to give me a pair of those pants.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, I know you're out there going, what are you talking about? And, it's funny. I have to tell a quick story. We're down here in Key West, and I love, you can laugh, but I love the street performers. At Mallory Square, every night at sunset, they have street performers.
Perfect.
And I told my wife, I was like, these folks are so talented because they have people come to watch them and give them money under no, I mean, they're not required to be there. They're totally volunteer. So if we could take some aspects of what these folks do and put into our presentations. Now, I'm not going to swallow a flaming
right
or juggle a unicycle, be on the unicycle and juggle things, but they're so good. And, they use humor, and I said, I wish I could do this, but I could. This one guy, he pulls out this, it's a thong or something, and he probably talked to a lady before. So there was a lady over there, and she's like, I forgot, you left these. And everybody goes wild, and it's like, there's a big age difference between these two people. And she went along, she was good. And then he says, I lied. They're not hers. They're his. And he picked out, the biggest, guy that, and I was like, I wish I could do that in a real estate office, but, man, I don't know.
Yeah, I probably can't, yeah. There's something you can get away with. Well, and the thing is, though, is you just do something that's different from what everybody else does. You have to set yourself different. Totally.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Patty, the listeners out there, if you guys got some value out of this, and you did, go to Patty's Facebook page and give her some likes. I think that helps with SEO. I don't know all that, but I'm
that'd
sure
be great.
So is it security inspections on Facebook? Is that what it is?
Yeah, security home inspections. And it's not the one, I think there's one up in New Jersey or something somewhere, but we're the one that's in Indiana.
Okay. And if they wanted, can they Facebook or go to your website or something?
Yep, absolutely.
Get in touch with you that way if they wanted to learn more about you?
Absolutely. I would love it.
Okay. And it's Patty Thornberry. And, Patty, thank you so much for your time. And I'm going to let you get back to all the great stuff that you're doing.
Thanks. Truly a pleasure. Thank you, Preston.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for checking out the Successful Home Inspector podcast. You can find show links at thesuccessfulhomeinspector.com. Check out the website for special offers, information, and other resources. Thanks again for listening to the Successful Home Inspector podcast. And remember to check back for new episodes. The Successful Home Inspector podcast is brought to you by Preston Sandlin and Home Inspection Carolina.